Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to my world, another edition of Jerry's Take on China coming to you from my local park. Today I'm going to talk about two different topics, China and universal basic income. These are two topics that are hated by the same people. Let me explain. The idea of China's poverty alleviation scheme is nothing new. The country has been aiming to deliver the population from poverty for over a generation. Now that it's been done, the work doesn't stop there. There is much more to do to increase the prosperity of those left in what are obviously still very poor conditions. However, there's not a single town, village or community left in China that doesn't have a sealed road into it. Nor is there a place where at least 4G and Wi-Fi are unavailable. Modern forms of transportation run in and out of these communities. Everything's looking good, but China admits there's a lot more work ahead. The next scheme is called Rural Revitalization and is aimed at encouraging people back into the rural communities because there will be work for them, well-paid work, and infrastructure such as schools for their children, hospitals for their sick. So it was with great interest that a Canadian friend of mine alerted me to Canada's Manitoba experiment. A small town by the name of Dauphin was used as an experiment in Universal Basic Income, UBI. What happened was for a period of 4 years, the residents of this small town were guaranteed 16,000 Canadian dollars a year. The results were impressive. The rate of hospitalizations fell. Improvements were seen in mental health as well as physical health. The number of people who finished high school increased, alcohol fuel incidents decreased. Unfortunately, the end of the 70s came along and politics got in the way. The scheme was deemed too expensive to continue and was scrapped. The benefits were logged, filed, stored, and then forgotten. Another such experiment took place in California, in a city called Stockton, 150 miles east of San Francisco. In this case, 125 low-income residents received $500 a month and could spend it on anything they wished. Once again, the results were positive. The same reduction in hospitalization, the same improvements in mental health, more people were able to find jobs, crime reduced considerably. Interestingly, survey results found that alcohol and tobacco, the very things detractors suggested would be purchased with this free money, accounted for less than 1% of the money that was spent. More people spent money on training and self-improvement, and most of the money was used to buy items in supermarkets or pay for utilities. So despite obvious successes wherever they've occurred, not everyone is as enthused by this kind of experiment. Milton Ezrati, a wealthy Wall Street economist who hates the idea that, his words, communist China will be running everything, described the trials as wrong-headed. Ian Duncan Smith, a UK Member of Parliament and another ardent hater of China who lives a luxury lifestyle rent-free in a mansion belonging to his father-in-law, who is a baron, and who hates China with such a passion that he formed IPAC, the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, agrees wholeheartedly with the wealthy elites and has set up a think tank which writes papers on the topic. He decries UBI as a false hope. It doesn't meet the needs of low-income families, he says. It provides a disincentive to work and is no more beneficial than the current system of social credits for people who are unemployed or impoverished. Australia has also had many calls for UBI. The majority of people in the country support it, but not Eric Abetz, the same man who asks ethnically Chinese Australians to denounce the CPC. But he only asks Chinese-looking people this question, whether they're from Vietnam or China, despite the fact that many of them have been in Australia generations longer than his own German-born family. Fortunately, the Wealth Assembly, a democratically elected group to represent the people of Wales in the United Kingdom, doesn't agree. They've introduced a UBI trial for all young children who are leaving home or leaving the care of their caregivers. In the UK, The welfare system was introduced over 100 years ago with a goal to eliminate poverty by 1948. This target obviously wasn't met. The first 40 years of it, 2 world wars, but they finished 70 years ago. It's quite apparent that welfare systems aren't workable. Poverty rates have increased in the UK to 22%, and after 5 years of decline, they've gone up again to 11.6% in the USA. So these strategies clearly need to be addressed. Poor people in the UK and the USA and Australia are seeing their income levels fall, while richer people are seeing theirs increase. Trials and research seem to indicate incredible benefits of universal basic income. It's hardly a surprise that the privileged people who would like to see UBI fail are very much the same people who would like to see China fail. People who genuinely want to see poverty eradicated view China with hope. Those who look for alternative methods will look to countries like Wales, and they'll have a great deal of optimism. Unfortunately, there's always going to be people who have both economic and political power, as well as goals and incentives to prevent worthwhile and what are obviously beneficial programs from going ahead. So that's all I have to say about UBI for today, and all I have to say about China's poverty alleviation schemes. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there in the box, and I will try and get back to you and answer all of your questions. Thanks once again for tuning in and listening to Jerry's Take on China from my local park, where we weren't disturbed too much.